Welcome everyone, welcome to Learning Pretzel and welcome to another Pretzel Talks. My name is Tadeusz Wesolowski and I am the founder of Learning Pretzel, and today I have an absolute joy and pleasure to welcome my friend, fantastic business owner, wellness, eating, mindset and whole being coach and a speaker, Beverly Liebson. Beverly, welcome. Say hello to everybody on the channel.
Thank you so much, Ted. I am so excited to be here, and it's just an honor that you've even invited me here. So it's amazing. It's just, your talks are incredible, and I just feel so honored to be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much, Beverly. I really appreciate those words. I just want to say hello to everybody who's watching. Welcome, everyone. Pop in the comments, whether it's a morning, whether it's an evening, where are you watching us from? We love to keep a conversation flowing here at Pretzel Talks. If you have any questions, pop them down below. We'll try to include them in our chat in here. And Beverly, when it comes to inviting people on a Pretzel Talk, I always try to kind of like think of people from extraordinary life paths that are so different, that dedicate their personal and professional life to helping other people, inspiring them, creating change. And I remember when we've met, I was just so blown away with your story, with your perseverance, with your resilience, with everything that you have achieved, and how you now get to really share that with other people and help others. But I don't want to take the credit. I'd love you to tell people, what is it that Beverly do?
What is it that Beverly does? Okay, well, first of all, I've been in this business for the last 5 years now. I live in Israel with my family. I've been here for 25 years, and I'm an ex-South African. It all happened approximately in 2010, where I was pregnant 12 times. I had 9 miscarriages. And unfortunately, after my 9th miscarriage, I developed 3 different kinds of psoriasis, and which progressed into psoriatic arthritis. Anyway, it got to a stage where nobody could really help me. I was on biological medication, and I just wasn't getting better. And I decided one day that if nobody could help me, I had to help myself. So I completely immersed myself into studying all the different kinds of autoimmune issues and challenges that I was experiencing, and went on to study the psychology of eating through the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. And at the moment, now I'm 95% psoriasis free, as well as I've been in remission from psoriatic arthritis since 2019. And basically my message is that just to let people know that they're not alone, there are definitely alternatives, and just not to just accept what other people tell you to do. Listen to your intuition. You do have a choice. And that for me was one of the key tools to my recovery. And now all I do is I'm just sharing my story and the tools and the importance of just trusting your intuition and listening to your body, because your body tells you everything. It really does. We've just got to learn to identify the signs and the ability to read those signs and do something with them.
Wow, this is really powerful, Beverly. I just want to acknowledge, hello, Miriam. Hello, Amanda. It's so lovely that you're here with us. It's so great. They're saying, wow, Beverly, powerful story. That's psoriasis free. Look, when I heard your story the first time, I have to say that I was absolutely blown away, because you have really faced so many challenges. And what really stood out for me was your resilience and your strength to keep going and not to give up based on one opinion. Now, you said something that's very powerful. And I remember when Marianne Baldwin was on the Pretzel Talks, and she said that she's a caregiver and author of a Caregiver 2.0 book. And she said a really powerful thing that I know stood out for me and for many of our listeners, reading the messages coming afterwards, that we have to listen to what our body tells us. She was speaking about it from a point of caregiving, right? And self-care, that, you know, there's a time where we're confused. We enter this phase where we're a little bit confused between what we think and what we feel. And
Absolutely.
it's so powerful, and it repeats itself all the time. And you're just talking to listen to what your body is telling us. Can you expand a little bit on that, so the listeners understand a little bit more, what does it mean to listen what your body is telling you?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, it definitely appears in every form of our lives, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's in the work situation. It appears everywhere. And a very good example of what you've just said is that, for example, you eat something and you have an allergic reaction to that. Your body, you get a stomach ache, or you come out in a rash, or you feel nauseous, or you get indigestion. These are all little signs that the body's saying, hey, listen, whatever you're doing now is not agreeing with me. So, just think about it so that you don't do it next time, because it's going to be, it doesn't make you feel comfortable. And I'm not only talking about it in food situation. When we're under severe stress, our bodies react to that stress. So it's not only the nutritional metabolism that affects us, it's also our emotional metabolism. There are definitely two different metabolisms, which a lot of people don't really realize. So it's not only what we eat, it's how we feel that affects the actual functioning of our bodies.
That is such an interesting point that you've made in here, that it's not only the, metabolic side of it, right? It's not only the side of the digestion that, oh, it's the nutrition, right? That it's also how we feel. And you've mentioned another really important part of it, which is stress. I think that, I know for a fact, being interested in food and nutrition, that there's so much focus in the society, in all of the information that goes onto the nutrition, but not enough actually goes into the state of our well-being and what is actually nutritious. What does actually nutrition mean for you? Because you've mentioned a very important point, right? We think about our nutritional needs, and then the body communicates it, and then our needs change as our emotional and wellness states change, right? Because something that works for you when you relax can cause a serious indigestion when you're under stress, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah,
How
that's
I wanted to ask you, sorry, because it's I'm just trying to formulate that question in my mind, how to ask it in the clearest way. But I remember hearing you speaking one day, and you have mentioned something very important, which was the relation about the stress and the fast eating we're so getting accustomed to, towards our body actually recognizing and receiving the food and starting to digest. Would you mind just to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. Most people believe that or think that digestion and weight loss and our metabolism and assimilating food is only to do with the
They do
nutritional side
think,
of food,
absolutely.
whereas it's not really. That's only one small piece of the puzzle. There's a huge, big the other issue or the other elements that make up this whole puzzle. For example, when we eat is an extremely, extremely, extremely important element. How we eat is also another very important element. And when I'm talking about those things, I'm just going to go back to your question about the digestion and how it's so important that whether we eat, whether we're relaxed, or whether we eat, when we're stressed, and what the difference is. Well, first of all, it takes our stomach 20 minutes to realize it's full. So it depends what type of an eater you are. Are you a slow eater, a moderate eater, or a fast eater? If you're a slow eater, you eat very, very slowly, and your stomach realizes after 20 minutes that it's full. Now, when you're eating slowly, your body has the chance to be able to let you know that it's full. Okay. As opposed to when you're a fast eater, you shoveling the food into your mouth so fast and it's going down so quickly that your body doesn't have the time to let you know that, hey, excuse me, I'm full. You've eaten enough. So after 20 minutes, you've finished your whole plate and whatever else you've decided to eat, and you get up. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you can have experienced this. When you finish eating and you go, oh my gosh, I feel so sick. I feel like, I can't breathe. Okay. Now that is very, very easily eliminated, because by eating fast, you're eating way more than what you actually really need, because your body just doesn't have the time to let you know that you're full. So that's why how you eat is so important. The other thing is that when you are relaxed, first of all, when you're under stress, the definition of stress is any threat that the body feels and how it reacts to that stress. Now, we're not only talking about physical stress, we're talking about emotional stress as well. And when we are stressed, our bodies go into fight, flight, or freeze mode, which means that it either gets ready, if it's a physical, it doesn't know whether it's physical or emotional. So it just goes into that fight, flight, freeze mode automatically, where it sends adrenaline through the body so that you can either run fast in case somebody's attacking you, or be able to have the strength to be able to fight somebody, or else to just to restore whatever energy you've got to be able to control what the event is actually happening. So what happens in those kinds of situations is the first place that the body's all the energy and all the enzymes move away from is your gut, which is your digestion. Because you don't need your digestion. When you're in a situation like that, your body doesn't need to worry about digesting food. It needs to worry about either fighting somebody or running away or getting away from the stress that it's been put under. So that's why when you are eating under stress, your digestive system slows down at least 4 or 5 times, even more than when you would if you were in a relaxed situation. When you're in a relaxed situation, your digestion is at its highest capacity. You are assimilating food and you are digesting food at its highest capacity. And that's where it is so important. And that's why emotional stress is just as important as physical stress. So it's not only the fact that you're in a hurry or you're under pressure or whatever it is. Toxic talk to yourself puts you under emotional stress. When you sit down to a meal, and before you've even started eating the meal, you're telling yourself that this is not good for you and you shouldn't be eating it and it's fattening and it's going to make you fat, or any negative talk like that puts you under instant stress. So
This
it's
is
very, very
absolutely
interesting.
This is absolutely incredible, and I just want to pop into the chat, and I can see that Miriam just says that's so true, that body tells us everything, and Amanda says that she can feel it, and I see that Miriam is saying that this is true, that she did gain a little bit of weight when she was under a lot of stress, and I can totally see the correlation between that, and I think that it's just so incredible to get the clarity on it, and I'm so glad that you've explained it that way, because most people, in my feeling, do not understand what different types of stress are there, and they just think that stress is when you're like under that pressure at work, but the truth is that there's so many different levels of stress. And it can be a physical, an emotional, and a psychological. There's so many different levels of stress, and what actually constitutes stress for one person is not going to be the same that constitutes for another. And it really makes sense, that connection, when you're talking to listen to your body, what it tells
Mm-hmm.
you, because your body is going to manifest. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people are just so focused on looking on the outside, that right now, whether it's a mindset, I see that in my work a lot, mindset and performance, people look on the outside
Mm-hmm.
to try to identify things. They look on the
Absolutely.
outside to resource things, where the truth is that most of the resources are within them. And through coaching and training, we can help them. And I'm sure that you can agree with that, that we can
Absolutely.
help them access that internal wisdom bank, this
Mm-hmm.
internal understanding, tune
For
them
sure.
in into themselves so they can really start to feel and utilize that knowledge, which always brings
Absolutely.
me back to, to reflecting how all of the aboriginal tribes, all of the elders,
Mm-hmm.
all of the older people that lived way more in sync with themselves than we live today,
Absolutely.
they ate only as much as, as they needed. Where
Mm-hmm.
today I sometimes have a feeling that we eat as we never knew. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I sometimes have a feeling that, we live in such an abundant world, where most of us, at least, have plenty of access to food. Yet, especially in those developed civilizations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yet we eat in a manner that would suggest to anybody watching that you're eating because you don't know where is going to be your next meal.
Yeah.
And then you just stuff it without listening to your
Mm-hmm.
body, without giving it a chance to catch your
Mm-hmm.
breath and say, I think I've got enough. And I see that, Amanda's is so true, that we have answers, we just have to trust ourselves, right, Amanda? I love that comment. I'm just wondering, how many, like, if you guys know, pop it into the chat. Are you a fast eater? Are
Mm-hmm.
you a medium eater, or are you a slow eater? Because I think that time in this particular matter is very important.
Yeah.
And
Much so.
I know that through the line of work that I've been doing for many years, working in a very busy environment, having great ambitions of go, 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 go.
Mm-hmm.
Before I reached the point that I knew how to balance my own
Mm-hmm.
well-being and performance, I have to say that I was definitely guilty of a fast eating.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that many people can relate to it. When
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, you ate too fast and you nearly felt sick afterwards.
Absolutely.
And then what does that mean to us? How does
Mm-hmm.
it affect us, right? And the ambition between wanting to satisfy your needs of
Mm-hmm.
hunger and food and energy and nutritional value and all of those
Yeah.
needs, and then how we do it, which comes back to what you were saying, right? How we eat is
Yeah.
so important,
Yeah.
right? I
Absolutely.
see that medium eaters there, but Miriam says that she used to be a fast eater. Hello, Ashley. I just want to say she's saying hello, Beverly, and
Hi.
Amanda says that she's slow, but she thinks that she's a medium. That's great. Now, Beverly, what is the direct link between our eating and our wellness then?
Okay. Before I answer that question, I just want to go back a second because it's not only the speed that we're eating that's very important. It's also being aware and actually aware and embodied when we eat. Because what happens is that when, let's say, I think we all guilty of this, is that we get our meal and we sit in front of the TV, or we get our meal and we sit in front of the computer, and we're busy working while we're busy eating, or we're busy watching while we're busy eating. And what actually happens is that you aren't concentrating on what you're eating. You're not experiencing the ambience of your food. You're not tasting your food. All you're doing is you're eating. It's almost like you're eating to live. And you're not aware of how much you're actually taking in, because you're so busy concentrating on the movie you're watching on TV or the work you're doing on your computer, that you're not concentrating on actually how much you're eating. And that's why
Mhm.
one of the other tools that I give to people when you're changing your relationship with food is to actually become more aware of when you're eating, aware of how you're eating, what you're eating, the tastes. Because when you're so distracted like that, you can eat a meal and then 2 minutes later, I can say to you, okay, Ted, how was your meal? What did you actually eat? And you'll hesitate for a moment and you'll think, wow, actually, what did I eat? And how did
I
it
did
really
not pay
taste?
attention.
100%. And
I
that is,
love that. And I love that you're making this point and this clarification, because I think it's really important, and I can totally see where you're going with this. We really treat eating as a side task. We get it done. We
Mhm,
just get it done, right? But we
because you have
probably,
to.
like, just as you said, our attention goes more into the computer, the movie, whatever it is, right? Rather than enjoying the meal. And it's not
Exactly.
so much for all of you listening and watching this. I suppose that I just want to make sure that you don't look at it that you're supposed to meditate over the plate. It's just about paying attention to
Yeah.
what you're eating. And I remember that on some stage in my life, I had a little bit of a dietary difficulties,
Mm-hmm.
and the doctor actually said to me, just pay attention when you're eating,
Mm-hmm.
whenever there's this kind of like a sharp or sour reaction and stuff. It was just about the reaction that I had to the food.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it absolutely astounding that I don't think I have ever before that moment paid attention to food in such a detail.
Yeah. And also making it fun. Everybody's like,
Mm.
so busy in their lives that, they just stick something into the microwave, or they, just experimenting with food. It's an amazing thing. There's so many things that you can do that don't take long, even if you aren't good in the kitchen. There's so many different ways to just spice up your eating experience.
Yes.
Especially also when you're married and you've got kids. I know that I'm in that situation that, you're all eating at different times, and the kids are running, want this and adults don't want that. And, you're in a bit of a situation where, you're making 3 meals or 2 meals because this one doesn't eat that and that one doesn't eat this. But when you actually sit down and actually think about it, and you just put a little bit of planning in, it's not like you've got to spend hours. You just you make the meals exciting. You add spice to the meal, if I can call it that. And it just changes the whole ambience about when you're eating together, and when, it just completely changes the whole relationship with food and how you look at food and how you look at eating. Um,
This is
like,
a very interesting point, and I just want to ask our viewers and our listeners, guys, if you want to pop a comment, or just to see how can you express yourself out there. I'm just wondering, how many of you feel adventurous with food? How many of you would you say that, yes, I am a food enthusiast and a flavor explorer? Or do you just have a repetitive menu that you keep
mhm,
going and falling for because it's easy? Because I'm really curious how many of you feel that exploration, that yes, like Amanda just says, right? Like, yes, I love trying new foods, right? But I
brilliant.
think that a lot of people don't do
Mhm,
that. But it
mhm,
ties me up to another thing that I want to talk to you.
mhm.
Because I know that recently you've been working on something which I'm hugely excited about. And it involves a lot of time, right?
Mhm.
The biggest problem I think that a lot of people have is that they don't know how to cook exciting, new, or nutritious meal without having to spend half of a day in the kitchen,
Right,
right?
absolutely. Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit more on that topic, and then perhaps share what exciting news are going to be coming soon?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I've got, what I do also is that I share recipes, because that's what I love doing, and it's really not difficult to just slap something up in a few minutes, whether it's a hot meal, whether it's salads or things like that. It's something that I love doing and I love sharing with everybody. So if this is something that interests you, please feel free to contact me, and I'll help you with pleasure. The thing that I am working on at the moment, and is I understand, being a mum myself and being under pressure to cook quick meals and different meals that the kids are going to eat as well as the adults are going to eat. So what I've done is I'm actually in the process of finishing an ebook, which I call Easy Recipes for Busy Mums. And it's actually not only for busy mums, but it's for everybody. And I've just put in a few small recipes in there just to give you an idea as to being able to prepare something that's not really difficult, but is absolutely delicious, that everybody can enjoy. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And, by contacting me through my email, I'm happy to send out this free ebook to you with these different recipes. And as
So
I
I just want to jump in for a second and just say that, guys, this is a super exciting opportunity. I think that I'm going to be popping that email to you already, because especially I think that the beauty of it is that, first of all, I know that it's titled Easy Recipes for Busy Moms, right? But at the end of the day, anybody who cooks is going to find the value in there, right?
Absolutely.
But what I really love is that you are making it super easy for people to see in what way they can not only hit the time target, but also make it delicious and nutritious.
Absolutely.
So for all of you that are interested in this, because I know that the ebook isn't finished just yet, but I just couldn't wait long. I just couldn't wait until Beverly comes on Pretzel Talks to share that. So what we have arranged is that in the description on the email, in the description of the event, or in the comments now, I'm gonna pop email, and if you send an email to this address and just pop free ebook into the title, Beverly is going to enroll you into the list, which means that as soon as the ebook is available, you will be receiving the copy. So I'm popping that comment in there now. You can find it in the description of the event as well, and make sure that you send that email, because you do want to get this recipe advice book. Where did the inspiration for you came from to come up with this easy recipes for busy moms?
Quite honestly, I just thought about it from our own perspective. And also, it was actually a very good suggestion from somebody that I'm working with. And she's a mom as well. And she said to me, I'd love some recipes that are nice and easy, that aren't, time consuming, and that are tasty. And lots, for kids also, it's really nice to have variety, because sometimes, when you have the same thing over and over again, even though for kids it's not as much of a problem, but when you're making the same thing over and over again, I think your husband or your wife starts to get like, is there anything else we can eat other than the same thing that comes over and over again?
COVID boredom. How many tricks can you pull when you're locked down in the house, right? When you're cooking 3 dinners in a week, it's a different sort of a story when you're making 7 lunches and 7 dinners, right? Your tricks up the sleeve tend to run thin.
For sure. So basically, in this ebook that I've created, there's basically 6 meals. There's 6 recipes in there, but out of those 6 recipes, you can actually make at least 8 or 9 different meals from them.
Wow.
So it's So it's something that's just it's a matter of experimenting and just keeping an open mind, if I can call it that. But
I love it.
And
I
so
really love it.
I'm actually doing, I'm going to be doing like a series of like all, service the whole market if I possibly can. So this is the first one.
Guys, pop in the comments who's excited about it, because I'm extremely excited. And I think that Beverly, especially right now, I have to tell you, I am a total food enthusiast and I love cooking. And in my house, I predominantly occupy the kitchen with my endeavors into cooking experiences. But I have to say that especially I think this year, I just came to a couple of moments where I was like, I just don't know what to cook. I feel uninspired. And the interesting part is that by coincidence, one evening we ended up watching some cooking show. And
Mm-hmm.
just seeing different recipe got me so inspired. And I was like,
Yes,
oh, I know what I could do with that. Oh, I know what I could do with that, right? And then you start getting creative. I think that
absolutely.
for as long as we're repeating the same recipe so much, right? And
Uh-huh.
there's so little. And I think that and I think that the challenging thing as well is that we are very much aware of the preferences of the people we cook for. And it's so
Absolutely.
hard to kind of like lean away from the
Mhm.
recipe because you're probably often, guys, how many of you know this feeling, right? You do not try to modify the recipe too much because you're just afraid people are going to go, I don't like it. And then what? And what then? You're gonna cook again? Nobody wants to do that, right? But it's a funny thing that when you try a completely different recipe, you give that window of opportunity
Mhm.
to really kind of like try to bring something
Absolutely.
else. Beverly,
Absolutely.
where is your passion for cooking coming from?
I think I've always loved it. I mean, it's just been in me all the time, and that's just been an extension of what I'm doing. Because the psychology of eating is all about eating and food and the relationship that you have with food. So the fact that I really love cooking, that was one of the things that drew me to actually studying the psychology of eating. Not only that was the one side. The other side is obviously how it impacts our health, and that's actually taking me through to your question that you asked me about a few minutes ago, with regarding to how food and wellness actually go hand in hand. And
Mm,
so there are quite a few sides to the story, but I'm going to go on, I mean, to that topic. But for me, it was mainly because the situation that I was ill, and I had to wait until I got to that stage in order to actually open my eyes and to say, oh, wow, now's the time that I've got to actually look at what I'm feeding, what I'm putting into my body, how it's affecting me, and how it can change me, or how it can help heal and help me
mm,
overcome the challenges that I have. And that's why there is definitely a direct link between wellness and food and eating. It plays such a huge part in our lives. I don't think people realize the impact that it has, because the types of food and the quality of the food that we actually eat um, has a direct relationship on how our body functions and our capacity to perform. Exactly
mm.
what you mentioned in the talk originally, because if you aren't eating nutritionists, try that again. If the food that you are, if the food that you are eating isn't really high in nutrition, your body's
Yeah.
not getting the fuel to be able to produce the energy for you to be able to perform at your highest capacity. So it's
Mm,
very important that you know that you're getting enough carbs, enough fats, enough protein, enough fiber in your diet for your body to be able to perform at the capacity that it needs to perform. So that's why
mm.
it's so important.
I love that. And to know, just as you were speaking about it, something just really hit me. And I would love to hear what you think about that. So to know, when we were talking about the eating, right, and how people eat as if they didn't know where was the next meal going to come, and
Mhm.
where I just think to myself, maybe that's not everybody. Maybe there's also another reason why we do that. And I just keep thinking to myself, a little time ago, I had a conversation on the Pretzel Talks with Joy Ross, and hello to Joy if she's watching this. And I remember that when she was speaking about the addiction, right, and addictive
Mhm.
behaviors, she was also talking about eating our emotions. And
Of
that really struck a
course.
chord with me because I was thinking, okay, I have been on a vegan diet for a very long time. Now, I did have to go back into the vegetarian diet just because I have a certain needs that I need to meet, and I just couldn't supplement them efficiently enough.
Mhm.
But I remember that a lot of people have said to me, "How can you feel satisfied after this meal? How can you do you feel full?" And I'm like, look, it's not about being full. It's about being fed, and like being, nurtured through the food.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it was quite interesting. The 2 points that I want to make.
Mhm.
Everybody who came to a dinner that I cooked was mind blown how flavorsome it is.
Mhm.
And the second thing is every person was saying like, and would that keep you full? And this question began to irritate me in a way, because I was thinking, like, eating is not about feeling full. But now, after what you said earlier, it makes total sense. We're eating just to fill ourselves up. And the reason why we're eating until we keep full, because we're stuffing ourselves until our body says enough or I'm going to get sick.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just trying to kind of like see, do you think that there's a strong emotional connection to why we do it?
Absolutely. There's not even a question. That's exactly what I've studied. That's what's so fascinating about it. That at the beginning of our talk, I mentioned that there are two different kinds of metabolisms. There's nutritional metabolism and there's the emotional metabolism. And what we tend to do is we concentrate very much on the nutritional side of the metabolism. What we eat, how we eat, the nutritional value, what our bodies need. But what we tend to neglect is the emotional side. Now, the emotional side, I would, from my perspective, is, I think, just as important, if not more important.
More
Because
important.
it affects, it's exactly the same. Our emotions also need to be digested and assimilated. Because what happens is that, for example, there's some people that allow their emotions to flow freely. There are other people that really hide behind their emotions. There are people that tend to suppress how they're feeling, because you don't exactly want to come out and share the fact that you're depressed, or that you're sad, or that you are under huge stress, or that you're very angry and you've got rage inside you. What you do is you suppress that. Okay. Now, what happens is that the body needs to be able to digest that and get rid of it as well. It can't just stay inside the whole
Filter
time.
it down.
No, you can't. You can suppress it and suppress it to a certain point, but at some point, your body is going to react to it. You have to get rid of it. It's the same as when you're eating junk food, or you're eating food, your body, it passes through your body. It doesn't stay there. And that's exactly what happens with our emotions. And that's a lot of the time that by suppressing those emotions and not releasing them, you look to other areas to be able to release it, or to get some sort of a comfort. And that's where comfort eating actually comes into play.
How many of you guys watching this, for how many of you this is starting to make sense now? How many of you can start see the connection that Beverly is just trying to draw us? That it's this whole system, and we tend to block certain areas of it, and going back looking for the outside. I'm just really curious for how many of you this is becoming a clear picture, because I think I'm catching up with what you were saying earlier, that it's starting to make an awful lot of sense there. Yeah, Amanda is just saying this is making perfect sense to you, right, Amanda? Like, I hear you.
Yeah. So exactly what I'm saying to you is that it needs an outlet. The emotions need an outlet. And that's how binge eating begins. That's how emotional eating develops. And that's exactly how overeating develops. Because that's, a lot of people turn to food as a comfort.
Yes.
And
Comfort being a very strong and important word in here, right?
exactly.
Whether it's an emotional comfort, or let's say chemical comfort, right?
Exactly, or
Whatever it
physical
is.
comfort. Exactly. And that's why, I mean, a lot of people that I've worked with have come to me and they've said, well, I've got no willpower. I can't do this because I've got no willpower, and I have it on the table and I cannot stop myself. Now, what I want to say to a lot of people is that this is actually it's not that you've got no willpower. This is actually a chemical reaction within the body. It's something that has to be released. It's exactly like you have to go to the toilet, you have to drink, you have to eat. It's not something that oh well, I can, it's willpower, and that it's not true. And that's where a lot of people beat themselves up, because they say, with diets, for example, there's certain diets that you just can't stick to, and that you beat yourself up. Well, I just can't do this because I've got no willpower. I just really want to emphasize it's got nothing to do with willpower. It really has nothing to do with willpower. It's very much a case
I
of what is going on around you, and
Mhm.
what you aren't, what are you finding challenging to deal with, and what you are
Mhm.
suppressing and not allowing to come out.
I love
It's
that you're raising this point, because I think that this is something that is commonly misunderstood, and a
Mhm.
lot of people very unfairly beat themselves up,
Very much
which is of course damaging to
so.
our confidence and
Mhm.
self-esteem in our
100%.
belief in ourselves and accomplishing things. Um, but I do see a huge importance in it,
Mhm.
and I love that you've touched on the aspect of the willpower, because we put so much pressure on ourselves that it's all about the willpower, and this has been this expression of a willpower has been exploited across all fields of our life.
Absolutely.
And the truth is that willpower, yes, it's important, but it's not the driver in all of those
Mhm.
areas. That if
Absolutely.
you are eating for comfort, it's not about the willpower to stop. It's about understanding what is your trigger to do that, because the
Absolutely.
overeating is a reaction. It's a behavioral reaction to something
Absolutely.
that's going on underneath it, right? Very often, I'm sure, Beverly, you will agree with me on that it's very often an emotional need, right? It's not so much physical. It's not
No,
that you're starving.
no,
I
no.
remember I've worked in a restaurant, and the chef always had this thing that people would come over. It's like, can I have something to eat at work, right? And he's like, I'm starving. And he always looked in a joking way. It's like, well, you don't look it, because, people thought that it was very mean, but I thought it was actually so hilarious, but also so to the point. None of us
Yeah,
are starving at the moment. We have no idea what starvation is. You
absolutely.
know, a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
we're nowhere near to understand what real
For sure.
hunger is in the
Absolutely.
world. But it brings
Absolutely.
me back to this idea that if you are, I just want to make that very clear, this message for anyone who comes across this video, this podcast, whatever, in whichever way you're going to come across it. All of those things that make us act in a certain way, it's not that you're so bad. It's not the reason that you're incapable of doing
Mm-hmm.
it. There's a trigger that causes all of those behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally.
we do not give it enough credit. And if you really want to change your behavior, which are the outcomes of your actions,
Mm-hmm.
you need to look at what is your trigger. And the truth is that you always have a root cause of something.
Mm-hmm.
Every fruit, every action is a fruit you produce. And that fruit stems from a branch, the branch stems from a trunk, the trunk stems from a root. And in the root is where it all began. So unless you find
Absolutely.
that, you're not going to be able to change it. And I think that it's a very important information to do, because I see it so many times that people fail because they don't know how to do it, or they're applying the wrong, they're going the wrong way around it, and then they
Absolutely.
beat themselves up and they feel terrible about themselves, right? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fat. Oh, I can't lose the weight. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I didn't get to complete that. Or like, oh, I'm just gonna make noodles because I can't cook anything else. And there's so many things that we try to do, and a lot of it is
Mm-hmm.
coming underneath it. So I know that this is a very complex subject that I
Yeah,
don't I
very.
don't really have time to dive into, but I just want all of you to understand that there's always a root cause, and it's usually a trigger. Guys, pop in the comments if that makes sense to you, if we have made that very clear, because it was very important to me that we come to this conclusion today, because I think it's something that is so needed to be heard,
Yeah,
where people, do review and judge
yeah,
themselves very unfairly,
absolutely.
in a very damaging way. And
For sure.
perhaps that negative feeling, it's something that you have mentioned before, right?
Mhm.
It causes
Abs-
that stress to us, which means that
Absolutely.
we fall back and it's like a spiral down, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
if any of you do want to find out what is it that they can do better, I can not recommend Beverly high enough. And I know that Beverly will be definitely delighted to hear from you. And for all of you who want to get the free copy of that Beverly free upcoming ebook with the easy recipes for busy people. I know you called it moms. I call it busy people. Just make sure that you check the comments or the description of the event, and we will make sure that you send that email with that free ebook in the title. I see that Amanda is saying that this is making perfect sense and she's busy, and I'll grab a fast food, and such a trap. And Ashley just says that Beverly is amazing. So we'll
Thank
go,
you.
we'll support and that. And Miriam said that she enjoyed it. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in with us. I really appreciate that. I hugely appreciate the support, the comments. If you have any questions, even once this live and the podcast is finished, you can message either me or Beverly, or you can just pop a comment and we'll try to come back to those questions. And Beverly, thank you so much for coming in here. I really cannot stress enough how important your message is. And I think that there has never been a time where your message needed to be heard. You are one massive inspiring person, and I hope that people get to hear more about that, maybe on a Pretzel Talk, maybe on another chat soon. But if there was one thing you wanted all of our listeners and viewers to walk away, what would be your final message from Beverly to the world?
First of all, that everybody's an individual and we're not all the same. There is no cookie cutter technique or method or diet that is going to fit everybody. It's so important to understand what makes you tick, and how to find out the root cause of what your challenges are. That's the one thing that is really, really important. You try to concentrate on the cause and not just the symptoms, because that's generally what most people do is just concentrate on the symptoms.
Yes.
Once you find that cause, the symptoms disappear, and it's amazing. The effects are absolutely astonishing. And the other thing is that just be more aware that it's not only what you eat, it's also your emotional. It's not only the nutritional metabolism, it's the emotional metabolism. They both go hand in hand. It's not one or the other. And just be aware of that.
This is amazing. Thank you so much, Beverly, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I hope we're going to have another opportunity to chat with and share some goodness with people on a Pretzel Talks. For all of you watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you like and subscribe and follow whatever it is that you like. If you've liked what you've heard, if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And we send love and good energy as always, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.